again in Crosser's Pit Stop, and today we have a really special guest for you today, Howard Berg. Howard can actually read at a speed of 80 pages a minute and was featured in the Guinness Book of World Records 1990 and is still uncontested. With over 5 decades of experience, a background in psychobiology, and best selling programs generating more than $65 million in sales, he has appeared on over 3,000 TV shows and advised prestigious groups such as the U.S. Special Forces and the Royal Thai Army. Howard, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. We'll have some fun.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on the show, Howard. We've got a lot of things that we can dig into for sure. But before we dig too much into it, we do like to have an icebreaker on this show. And the question for you today is, which cartoon character do you resonate with the most, and why?
Professor X and the X-Men, because his power was his mind. And I read 80 pages a minute. I write 120, 125 words a minute. I wrote my last book in 5 hours, and it went number one on the Amazon site in one day. So I would say that would probably be my special gift. I read the healthcare bill on Cavuto, which was 1,500 pages. It was about that high from the floor, and I read it in 50 minutes and did a full analysis. So the one I think that it comes closest to is Professor X. Although I'm not in a wheelchair and I can't levitate anything. Just want to make that clear.
Oh well, that's it's still very impressive. I mean, that's I don't think I'd. Well, you want to talk about procrastination? I don't think I'd even start reading that bill that you read there. Just sliding into that. Um, what is procrastination to you? How do you define it, and what does it mean to you personally?
It's people that dream a lot about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it and never do it. They never take that effort, they never make that step that turns dreams into reality. Can I make a point on this? Is that okay?
Yeah,
I'm
by all
going to
means.
tell you that magic is real and it's ubiquitous and it's related to your question. If you look around you, everything you see that wasn't created by nature, a plant, an animal, or a rock, was an idea. The clothes we're wearing was a thought. The glasses, the headset, the computer, everything you see in this world that wasn't made by nature was a thought that someone turned into a reality. That's what procrastination is killing. Your ability to turn your dreams, your thoughts, your aspirations into something real and tangible that can transform your life. And we're going to talk today about strategies they can put into place to change all that, to move past the dream to embracing the reality. It isn't hard to do, it takes very little effort, and then you're no longer procrastinating, you're creating and you're experiencing the benefits that come from taking those ideas and those dreams and hopes and wishes and making them real and tangible. And that's really, in a way, it's a sin because you have that gift, that talent that the world needs. And by not acting on it, you're denying not only yourself the benefits of your talent, but all the people who would have benefited from what it is you do also are suffering as a result. So even if you don't want to do it for you, think of all the people that need your help and could benefit from it if you took that simple action. And we could describe today how to turn those thoughts, dreams, wishes into realities and end procrastination.
Wow, that's a powerful segment to start the show on here. Um, Before we dig into that too much, though, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, your journey? How do you get to be where you are today and reading 80 pages a minute?
The short answer is I read faster than everyone else, but that's probably not not very helpful. So, now, I'll give you a better explanation. So I grew up in the projects in Brooklyn. It was like West Side Story without the dancing and music. I met Bernardo. He had a knife and he didn't dance and he wasn't laughing or smiling. It was really dangerous. I was mugged 100 times. My dad was pistol whipped We moved when they raped an 88-year-old man. So when I tell you that's a tough neighborhood.
Mm.
I found one safe place, the library. Gang kids would rather be dead than caught in a library. It's like vampires in churches. They don't go to the library. But I went there because it was safe. I knew that I wouldn't be mugged in the library. Give me that book.
Mm.
I want that philosophy book now. It's not really something you have to worry about. So I got very good at college reading when I was 11 because that's what I could do. Everything else was maybe you'll make it home tonight or not. You really didn't know. And not everyone did. People were killed in my neighborhood on a fairly regular basis. It was that bad. So at 17, I graduated high school. I went to the State University of New York, Binghamton, which is the crown jewel of the state university system. And I majored in biology. In the second half of my junior year, I got interested in the brain and learning. And I told the dean, I also want to major in psychology. He looked at me and said, Howard, you have 1 year left. You had any psych courses? You have to do the 4 year program in 1 year. Finish the bio program. You have to take 6 science courses a term, 2 4-hour labs. Back then, there were no calculators. You did the math on a slide rule. So it took 16 hours to do statistics on a slide rule. So that's 32 hours of lab report, eight, eight, 8 hours of lab, and six science courses. So to make it interesting, I had 3 jobs. I was also working 18 hours a week on the side. And the first thing he said to me is, "You're not smart enough." And that's what I realized. They never taught learning in school. That's one of the reasons people are procrastinating. No one taught them how to learn or how to use information. They tell you what will happen when you don't learn and why it's important, but they never tell you why. You hear a song on the radio once, you never forget it. You read a book like Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and the next day you know the no habits. You're lucky if you remember the name of the book and who wrote it. It's got to be a way to learn things that matter, the way you learn the songs. I got up to 80 pages a minute using what I learned about the brain. And I finished the 4 year program in 1 year. And then I took the GRE, which is like an SAT for graduate school in biology. I read 48 books in 3 nights, like biochemistry, cell physiology, genetics, plant systematics. I think we can agree that's not light reading. That wasn't a comic book. I got 3 questions wrong. I was in the 99th percentile. I got an 800. And then it was like, is it me? Or have I found a way that people can learn? I had a school with 11-year-olds in university getting A's in a week using AP tests in college courses consistently. So I saw it wasn't just that I could do it, but we could teach it. Much more important. Nobody wants to know what I can do. What they really want to know is how can you help me and make me able to do what I need to do? And I hope we could spend time today on some tips that'll actually get them started on that journey for fulfilling their dreams and not just hearing what I did to get mine.
No, what an amazing backstory, and thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And you said that what you had learned about the brain. What did you learn about the brain?
Well, let's start first about the main thing. How do you learn fast? Okay, when you're in a car, you're driving and reading the road, and if you're on a highway, there's a good chance you're going about 70 miles an hour, and you're reading the road in front, the back, the left, and the right, all at the same time. And you're watching your gauges, and you're watching your GPS, and you're watching the road so you don't kill anybody or hit a pothole, and you're bored. So you turn on the radio, you talk on the phone, and you chat with people in the car. And often all of those things at once. And you're still bored. When you read a book, it's right in front of you. And you read about 200 words a minute. That's the mode. And you're lucky if the next day you remember 10% of what you read. So why is it easier to read a road in 4 directions at 70 miles an hour in a car then read a book at 200 words per minute right in front of you. And that's the first thing we'll talk about with the brain. When you're in a car, it's all a movie. You're taking in all the data as images and movies. When you're reading a book, you're hearing the book with your eyes. You're hearing one word at a time. As there's a little person in back of your head talking what you're seeing in the book. So you're actually using your eyes to hear what you read. That's the problem. Vision's more powerful. This is not a facade. Those are real books. You could see all the books instantly. Now, if I said read the title on the spine of every book that's there, it would take you over an hour to do what you just did instantly. Speaking words, that's digital, one at a time. You listen to music one at a time. It takes time to hear a song, but a picture, a painting is instant. As soon as you see it, you see it. By teaching people how to use the visual part of their brain, which is the biggest part of the brain, to see a book more like a movie and less like a conversation. What I'm doing is I'm playing back the pictures and movies that I made, and I'm identifying the elements that are in those images, and I'm going back to the names of the books one at a time because I'm seeing the movie that has all of them in it. And it takes about an hour and a half for a normal person to do that and read at least 100 to 400% faster in that short amount of time. And then the rest of it's about how do you understand it now that you're going so fast. And we'll talk a little about that later as well. And remember it. And remember it. Because what's good is the information if you don't know it when you need to use it, which is a different problem. And by doing all those, give you a secret. When most people want to make more money, they get a second job or they work overtime. You don't make more money that way. You make a little more, but the taxes are getting higher and higher, and so you get to keep less and less. So when you're really done is you're exhausted, you have no life, you made a little more. The way you make more money is you learn a new skill that pays more. Instead of $20 an hour, $12 an hour, you're making seven, eight, $900 an hour. How do you do that? You find the skill people will pay you for that is worth that kind of money. Well, how do you do that? You get a set of books, 10 books by someone who's done what you dream of. 10 people have dreamt of what you dream of and made it real. How? Look at what they all did. That's a business plan. The problem is say, well, how am I going to read 10 books? Oh, I taught an 84-year-old, Ruth Lubin, to read 3 books in 3 hours, in 4 hours' time. If she could do it, you can do it. You're not too old. So a normal person, I can honestly say, could read at least a book an hour. So in 3 days, you've got yourself 10 books. And now you've got a way to stop procrastinating and start putting your dreams into motion because you have a plan, an actionable plan that's worked 10 times. Why wouldn't it work 11 times? It will. And that's how you get out of this procrastination mode into a action mode, turning information overwhelmness and overload into riches. Because in a knowledge-based economy, the only job security you'll ever have is between your ears. It's what you know and can do. I've read about 30,000 books, so if I'm an idiot, I'm well informed. And I'm here to help people break that procrastination state and realize that what they're dreaming of is doable if they have an actionable plan that's been proven to work. It changes everything. And that's why it's so important to learn how to read and learn faster. And by the way, if they go to howarereading.live, I'm doing a live class on how to do this, and they'll double in 4 hours with excellent comprehension. I just thought I'd let them know I actually can teach them the whole skill and not just tell them about it.
No worries there. And then just to all our listeners, don't worry, we are going to be putting that in the show notes, so you don't have to grab a paper and pen or anything like
Thank you.
that. You mentioned a couple of things there, Howie, and I just want to touch on a couple of those. So normally when we're talking overwhelm, we're talking about too much information sometimes.
Mhm.
Sometimes, not all the time. And you're telling us that the best way to do it is to, if you're feeling overwhelmed, put in more information and remember it better.
And the state of being overwhelmed by changing the way you're inputting the information to your brain. What's happening is you're getting so much data, your brain doesn't know what to do with it. And it feels like it's drowning in data and you can't stay on top of it. And you start forgetting what you learned 5 or 6 pages ago as you're going further along. It doesn't happen when you learn the right way. Can I show one strategy that makes that happen?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, one of the key elements is psychology. Most speed reading programs are about reading fast. I don't believe reading fast is an answer to anything. I don't think reading slow is an answer to anything. You can read a calculus book and fail after learning all the equations because you don't have any idea what to do with them. So, reading and memory alone are not going to make you smarter. They're just going to give you too much information and overwhelm you. One of the key ways we learn is using something called schema. Now, I'm going to demonstrate it rather than talk about it so you can actually see how it works. I'm going to read a passage that has no schema. The words are simple, so it should be easy to understand, but it isn't because it has no schema. Then I'll read it again with a one word title, and instantly, because the one word title has schema, it makes total sense. Here's the schemaless text. This is an easy thing to do. If possible, you could do it at home, but you could always go someplace else if it's necessary. Beware of overdoing it. This is a major mistake. It may cost you quite a bit of money. And I'm willing to bet right now you and our audience has no idea what I'm talking about. Theories, but no real clear idea. Now I'm going to read it again with one word, a title that has schema, and instantly everything will make sense. Laundry. Laundry. This is an easy thing to do. If possible, you could do it at home, but you could always go someplace else if it's necessary. Beware of overdoing it. This could be a major mistake and may cost you quite a bit of money. No confusion. By teaching people where these clues are, even though they're going very quickly, they're using the brain's decoding mechanism to make deeper understanding and connections with what they're learning. So it's not just a bunch of words that have no significance anymore. They're using their decoder ring. They're learning how to find and use schematic clues effectively at higher speeds to understand even very complex information like chemistry and economics. And yes, you can do that. And then, of course, the next thing is how do you remember it, which we could cover in a moment.
That's interesting. Because right now I was just listening to that in my head, and you're right. Adding that word laundry to it really did that. Yeah.
And every book you read, that's what your brain is instinctively doing. It's finding that word or group of words that makes all the other words make sense. But you're doing it unconsciously and instinctively without an understanding of what you're looking for or how to find it when it's not obvious. So when I make you more aware of how writers are using that strategy when they're creating their text, so you become more aware of where to look, how to look, and what you're trying to find, and knowing when you found it, that's a game changer. So now it's not just a bunch of words and data that confuse you and overwhelm you, which is exactly what a lot of people felt in school. It gave you a lot of facts and never gave you a clue on what you're going to do with any of it. I mean, how much have you used your high school algebra in life if you're not a technician or or an engineer? It doesn't mean it didn't have value and you couldn't have used it, but they never gave you a clue on what to do with it or how to apply it to anything. The trigonometry, the geometry, That wasn't useless information, but it might as well be because they never really anchored it to real world problems and day to day circumstances that you could apply it to. We learned a lot of things, I got stuff, but no one ever told you what to do with that stuff to make it pay off. And that's really one of the failings of the education system. It's very, very old. I read a book among one of my 30,000 books, and they said if someone came back from 100 years from the past and they looked at the world today, the one thing that hasn't changed is school. They ring a bell, you start. They ring a bell, you go to lunch. They ring a bell, you start. They ring a bell, you go home. And why was that? Because in the factory, they rang a bell and you started. They rang a bell and you went to lunch. They were teaching you how to shut up and listen and go to work in a factory and get off the farm. That was it. That was school. Stop working on the farm, go to work in a factory, and we're going to ring bells to keep you on track. And God help you if you challenged or questioned anything. That wasn't what they wanted. Not thinkers, not doers. They wanted you to shut up, keep quiet, listen, and do what you're told, just like the factory. And that was the whole point of why did they make it free? They needed cheap labor that could do the jobs. They paid next to nothing and they made other people very, very rich doing that. And they were more than happy to give you free education because they got back hundreds of millions or billions of dollars and took it from you and the hard work you're doing. If you have a job, and I'm not putting jobs down, you're making other people rich. Nobody pays you to make you rich. Even if a good job, say you're making $1 million a year, that's a very good job. They're making $10 million a year from what you do. Otherwise, they're out of business. They have to make a profit. Whatever they're paying you, you're making 10 times that for them. And so you're getting 10% of what you produce. Or you can do it yourself and make 100%. But you don't know how because they don't teach it. They never taught you how to do it on your own. So you went to school thinking, I got to get a job because that's what everybody else does. No, you don't need to get a job. You need to learn how to create your own world, your own business through your new skills. And when you've done that, you're free and you never have to worry again because you have the best boss in the world. You. You want a day off? You take a day off. You need a vacation? You don't need permission. You go on a vacation. And the money's there because you're keeping everything you make. That's really the answer. Stop procrastinating. You can make this happen. Millions of people have done it already. They had a plan. What you don't have is the means for doing it, just the dream. When you find how to make that dream real and you take action, problem will solve itself.
Hmm. I like that. If you take action, the problem will solve itself.
Intelligent action. Don't think you have to invent the wheel. I'm pretty sure they have one already. What you need to do is learn how that wheel was made and put it to good use. You don't need to make the wheel. It's there already. Find it. And then use the wheel that's working to work for you. The problem with procrastinators is they don't have the wheel, even though it's there already. And they keep dreaming about it, but nothing happens because they don't do anything. They dream.
And I guess that to a large extent, many of us, and I mean, I'm probably guilty of this myself. Actually, I know I'm guilty of this myself. Just going through life and looking at all the different things with that somebody created, like you said, and not really putting too much thought into it, right?
Well, Elon Musk reads 2 books a day. Oprah, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett read a book every day. Look at their bank account. Now look at yours. Which one would you rather have? What does it tell you? Readers are leaders. You go from information overload to information riches when you learn how to process that data and turn it into money, which is what they did. That's how they made money. It's not a magic trick. Everyone gets 24 hours in a day. The difference between living like them and living like you is how they use those 24 hours and how you use them. That's it.
And just swinging back onto the memory work, retaining information. I mean, I like to consider myself I'm a pretty fast reader, but nowhere near 80 pages a minute.
Well,
But I mean, you're right. I mean, some of the stuff that I read, I remember War and Peace.
good
Did you
book.
ask me what happened in it? I don't know.
It was about Russia. It was a great movie, also. Here's how to remember. I'm going to teach you how to memorize a list. How's that? I'm going to give you 10 things to remember. I'm not going to tell you how, and believe me, you won't be able to. Then I'll show you the secret, and instantly you'll know the whole list backwards and forwards, effortless. In fact, it's so simple, 3-year-olds can do this literally. And this isn't a drill, this is a tool. So you really want to do it. One more caveat. You remember 10% of what you read, 90% of what you say and do. And I'm going to ask you and our audience to repeat stuff to make it lock in so that you'll learn the tool and be able to use it at the end when you realize, hey, I could actually use this thing. Let's start. The ancient Greeks discovered a secret to learning the list. You want to remember uh, pole, shoes, tricycle, car, glove, gun, dice, skate, cat, and bowling pins. So, how do you remember all that very fast? We're going to use something you know. I'm going to bet everyone listening can count to 10. And we're going to use 10 numbers you know to learn the new things because those numbers are hanging in your mind. And what do you do with hangers in a closet? You hang things on them. So, the number one, it looks like a pole. Think of a lamp pole or a flag pole. When I say one, you say pole. One.
Pull.
And make sure those people listening say it. You want to remember this. Two is shoes because you wear two shoes. What's two?
Shoes.
What was one?
Pull.
Three is tricycle, 3 wheels. What's three?
Tricycle.
Two.
Shoes.
One.
Pull.
Car has 4 tires, so four is car. What's four?
Car.
What was two?
Shoes.
One.
Pull.
Three.
Tricycle.
And I'm jumping, it isn't going to matter. Five is a glove. There's 5 fingers in a glove. Five.
Glove.
Three.
Tricycle.
One.
Pull.
Six gun. They love them in Texas. They like cowboys. Six gun. What's six?
Six gun.
What was four?
Car.
What was two?
Shoes.
Lucky seven in dice. You want to hit seven on the first row. So seven is dice. What's seven?
Dice.
Five. Giving you a
Glove.
clue. What was three?
Tricycle.
What was one?
Pull.
You're almost done. Say eight skate. Rhymes work. Eight skate. What's
Eight
eight?
skate.
Good. Six. What did they love in Texas?
The six gun.
What was four?
The car.
What was two?
Shoes.
You're almost done. How many lives does a cat have?
Nine.
Nine. So nine is a cat. What's nine?
A cat.
Lucky seven.
Dice.
Five.
Glove.
Three.
Tricycle.
One.
Pull.
How many bowling pins are in a lane? 10 bowling pins. What's 10?
Bowling pins.
What was one?
Pull.
What was two?
Shoes.
What was three?
Tricycle.
What was four?
Car.
What was five?
Gloves.
Six, Texas.
The six gun. Yeah.
Lucky seven.
Was the dice.
Eight rhymes with
Skates.
nine is a.
That was the cat. 9
And
lives.
10.
And 10 was the bowling pins. Yeah.
Now you learned how to speed learn numbers. Let me show you how. You go to a hotel and your room is 314. By the time you get to the lobby, how many times You forgot what your room number was. So we're going to turn the numbers into pictures. What picture is three?
That's the tricycle.
What picture is one?
That's the pole.
What picture is four?
That's the car.
Make a movie. A tricycle hits a pole on a car. Picture that. A tricycle hits a pole on a car. Tricycle, what number?
3.
Hits a pole
That's 1.
on a car.
That's 4.
That's your room number, tricycle, pole, car. And it's also pi and geometry to do a circle. So the students use it for math and science and history, and business people for phone numbers, room numbers, percentages, anyway. And the zero is the 10 bowling pins. So you have 0 to 9, and that's the whole ball of wax for numbers. So you
Huh.
have 1 through 9, and then the 10 is 0, and that's how you're able to speed learn numbers. And of course, there's lots of other ways to memorize. There's no one way. Everyone's different. The way you learn a language can be different than reading a novel. The way you read the newspaper can be different than reading a physics book or a math book. They're all different. And so there isn't one way to learn that works for everybody in every subject. But there are ways to learn that will work for anyone. They have to find which of the tools is best for them in that subject. And so by giving them a toolbox and say, here are all the things that can work, let's find what works best for you so that the system accommodates you, your learning style, the way your brain is designed to understand. So maybe you're really, really good at learning music, but terrible at learning a language. Or maybe you're great at learning language, but you're horrible at math. That's fine. Most people have been misled to think the question is, am I smart? They look at their report card and they look at all the low grades they got. No, look at what you did well. You don't have to be good at everything. You should be competent. You should be able to read. You should be able to count. You should be able to write your name. There's some things you should know how to do. Unfortunately, not everyone can even do that. But what's important is you're good at something. Paul McCartney was not a physicist. Very good at writing songs. He did well. He made $1 billion. I'm going to say that worked for him. Albert Einstein was really good at physics. He didn't make $1 billion, but he was really good at what he did with what he knew. Everyone has something they can do that they're good at, whatever it is. It doesn't mean you have to be good at everything. You have to be good at something. And when you learn how to turn that something into money, you can do anything you want for the rest of your life. That's what we're talking about.
Hmm. No, thank you for that lesson. It's a very powerful lesson. I can see how it could be. Now I want to take the course.
Well, that's why I'm here. I want people to take the course. I'll tell you what I do differently. I give them 2 free months in my mastermind. That gives them a chance to ask me questions if they're having a problem or something isn't working the way they expected. Nobody does that. You try getting any of the people who wrote any of those books on the phone to personally tell you how to make it work the way they described it in their book. I do that because I'm not just interested in making money. The world's in trouble. You watch the news. Do you think there's too many smart people making too many good decisions? That's our big problem today. Haven't heard that. Not from conservatives or liberals. So my job is to solve all the problems. I can't do that, but make people smart enough to excel at whatever it is they do, and they can solve the problem. Maybe a doctor read 50 or 60 or 100 extra books on cancer and saw something everyone else missed because they didn't read all those books, and they solved the problem. Or someone saw how to. I actually could tell you how to balance the deficit. Would you like to see that?
Yeah.
Because that's a big problem. Okay, how do you get to pay off the trillions of deficit dollars? Well, the way you would do that is we know that Yellowstone has a huge geothermal field. So we have the government, it's government land. They lease the land for the oil and gas and coal companies to build geothermal power plants. It's clean energy. They have the water, they have the free heat from the geothermal. So now we have totally green energy that they didn't lose their business over because it's their money that built the geothermal plants. And because it's on government property, they charge a usage fee to people. And they use the money from that because all the electricity is coming from there to pay off the debt. See, that's a way of looking at a problem and say, how do I solve this problem? Could it work? Yeah, it could work. Will they do it? Probably not, but they could. And it certainly would make a difference if they did. But I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for it to happen.
Well, maybe in a couple of hundred years, right?
If we're still here, uh, there are some very scary predictions. MIT did a study in the 70s that predicted the fall of civilization around 2040, which isn't a long way from today. It was in 1970, but it's not a long way from today. And here's the scary thing: every indicator they had along that track has been hit. They haven't missed on anything. And several other universities at the level of an MIT have replicated the study, and they say, yeah, by 2040, we're going to run out of resources for the rate population is growing. And when that happens, it's going to be a very unpleasant outcome for a lot of people. Between that and global climate change and a lot of other things going on. For example, China and India get most of their water from the Himalayas. Well, the glaciers are melting. So when there's no more water coming out of the Himalayas and they have no water to feed their 1.5 billion people, between the two countries, almost 3 billion people, do you think they're going to go quietly into the night starving or use their nuclear weapons to find food someplace else? There's some serious things that haven't happened, but we're heading that way. It doesn't have to happen. There are things we can do to prevent it. The problem is we're not doing them. So that's a problem. And when people don't even who are in power don't even believe the problems that are threatening our existence even are real or exist, that's an even bigger problem. So that's where we are right now. So basically, am I an optimist? I'm a cautious optimist. I believe the more people I can teach and empower to succeed and learn and think, and I'm not telling them what to think and I'm not telling them what to learn, but pick things that'll change you for the better. We can make the world better as a result of millions of smarter people making better decisions and choices. So it isn't just about money. It's about knowing you can change things for the better. That's a responsibility, and you should accept it and do what you can. That's why I give them that opportunity to work with me live afterwards to make sure that they got what they paid for. They didn't just give me money and I disappeared, but I stayed with them to make sure that what they paid for actually gave them the skill they expected and they can do what they're thinking of. And then I can go to sleep at night saying I earned it. I did what I was supposed to do and I'm getting paid a fair amount for changing their life for the better. And I think that's a fair exchange of what you should do, not just charge people for something and then you gave me your money. You know, it's not my problem if you can figure it out or not. And that's too much of what we see today with most things you buy. They don't care. They walk away, and it's your problem. I don't believe in that.
Mm. Oh, it's certainly a lot to think about for sure. Um, yeah, definitely a lot to think about. And yeah, and the other thing too is as you were mentioning before, some people have certain skills, and if a skill doesn't seem useful, that or the skill is deemed that it can't make money, we don't pursue it. So I don't know, maybe the geothermal isn't lucrative enough, or but then you have the guys that like the fidget spinner. I mean, they're not very productive, but
Well, look at
multi-billion
what I
dollar industry.
studied. I studied psychobiology. How many employed psychobiologists have you met in your lifetime? I'm going to say zero. Okay. Other than the people I learned from in college, I haven't met one either. So I realized that I had a lot of very good information that could help people, but there was absolutely no jobs that would let me do that. And so I started my own business and I took the skills that I had and found a way to share them with other people. So I am working as a psychobiologist. I'm teaching people how to make their brains work more efficiently with knowledge so they can fulfill their dreams. That's an example. The opportunity wasn't there, the job didn't exist, but I had a vision. I realized what I was able to do, and then I learned the skills I didn't have. I was trained in science. What did I know about selling or building a business? So, totally different skills. I read books by people who did it and made it work, and I read how they did it. One of my friends was a D minus student in college. He makes 100 million a year now in marketing. He made over $3 million in 90 minutes in one workshop. $3 million. He was a D student. Would you consider him a failure? No, because a lot of those people who got D's and C minuses were smart. They were bored. They weren't interested in how they were being taught and what they were learning. They didn't lack ability. They do things better when they're doing with their hands and working with something, not sitting in a chair for 3 hours and listening to someone drone on and on about something that's boring and has no meaning in their life, which is college basically. It may not be 3 hours, maybe it's 90 minutes, but I'll give you one I had. I spent 3 hours learning the importance of water. Did you know that if there's 8 million people in New York, they need more water than a town with 50 people? Let me spend the next 3 hours proving that to you. And they did. They provided all the data to prove that 50 people need less water than 9 million. And they were right. 9 million people. Yes. But that wasn't enough. He had to show how many gallons they use for cleaning the dishes and washing the clothes and bathing. And for every piece of paper each person used, how much water it took. This took 3 hours. 3 hours to prove that 9 million people will use more water than 50. And I have to say, they definitely proved it. And I wanted to hang myself by the end of the 3 hours because it was so incredibly boring. Incredibly boring. And that's why a lot of people, despite being educated, aren't getting the results because no one taught them how to get results. That's what I'm doing. I'm teaching them how to get results by learning from people succeeding at the results they want to get. It's not rocket science. If you know 10 people that made a company that does what you want and they're all making a lot of money and they wrote a book on how they did it, maybe you should read those books. you know, and remember it and then act on it. What do you think would happen? End of the procrastination.
Hmm. Oh, that's very great. No, thank you so much for that information. I'm still wrapping my head around the 50 versus 9 million. I mean, I don't need to go to
oh,
a 3 hour seminar for that.
oh, yes, you do if you're in college. Here's the funny thing so many of the things I thought were useless weren't. So I'm majoring in biology, and you have to take a course in humanities. So I picked theater. And I'm like, what am I going to do with a theater course? Put amoebas on a stage and we're going to have the dancing amoebas? I mean, what is a biologist going to do with theater? I mean, when you thought about it, you'd say, wow, this is a good waste of time. Until 30 years later, I was asked to do an infomercial. And because I had theater, I understood There was no script, there was no rehearsal, there was no editing. You were just giving, just like you're doing now. They sat me down and I talked for 28 minutes. And the things I said generated $65 million in sales because I had theater and I understood how to do it. That stupid course that was never going to have any value made $65 million. I took gym. What are you going to do with gym? I took water safety instructor. I made money over the summer teaching swimming. Well, 15 years later, I'm in a pool doing laps, and I notice the guy next to me isn't moving. So I tap him on the shoulder, and he doesn't move, and I shake him, he doesn't move. I turned him over, he was dead. He had a heart attack in the pool, and the lifeguard didn't see it. So I teach lifeguards. I said, get in the pool. He's dead. There's only two people, me and this dead guy swimming. How could you not see him? Well, he didn't. I'm swimming and I'm seeing him. So I said, get in the pool. We're going to take him out because they're dead weight, literally. And you have to do CPR, which I hadn't learned for 10 years. And I did it, and his heart started to beat. It wasn't beating. He did the breathing. He started to breathe. He came back to life from a gym class from 15 years earlier that seemed like a total waste of time. This man was alive because I took a gym class 15 years before. Don't count things out because they don't seem they're going to do anything today. You never know. Things happen in your life later on, and suddenly that thing that seemed like the dumbest, stupidest, useless thing becomes central to your success. Just something to think about. And sometimes it's the water thing, and it never happens.
Well, you know that when the resources are running out in the world now, you want to be in a population of 50 and not 9 million.
Next to a stream with water that's coming fresh from the ground and not from a factory runoff. You want to be by Poland Springs.
Well, it's been a really great conversation, Howard. We are coming up close to the time here. Is there anything that you wish I would have asked but I didn't ask, or anything that you felt we should cover that we didn't cover?
Why did I win for world's sexiest man? I did. I don't know. Even my wife didn't vote for me. I'm flabbergasted. um, yeah, you. I kind of explained to you that this is more than just a business for me. I was a yogi when I was younger. I joined an ashram, and I go on weekends and I meditated, and you learn a lot about karma. And I really think that we have a responsibility to use our gifts to make the world a better place than we found it. If you're procrastinating, that's exactly what you're not doing. You're not making the change that you could make. You're not making the difference you need to be making. You're not just denying yourself, but all the people who would have benefited from what you're dreaming of doing and what it would have done for them as well. And so it isn't just about money and it isn't just about us, but if we all do something to make it a little better than we found it, to make the world better than we left it, I think that can make a big difference. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is. Maybe you cook better or you found a new cleaning method. Whatever it is, it changes the world for the better. And we need that today. We need as many people as possible focusing on making the world a better place. Because left to itself, we see what's happening, and it's not going in a direction that looks promising for anyone in the future. So I'm hoping that what I do will inspire people. Howie Reading Live. I can help you reach your goals. Give me the opportunity, and you'll see a change in your life that you never dreamt possible. And that's really why I came today.
Well, again, thank you so much for being on the show, Howard. It was a great conversation. You've got a lot of great insights. Um, hopefully our listeners are taking that to heart, and I know I want to be signing up for that course. Again, we are going to be putting that in the show
Thank
notes
you.
there, so you'll be able to get that after the show.
Thank you.
And just once again, thank you so much for coming, Howard, and to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And just remember, if you can't find that motivation or inspiration for yourself today, maybe just go out and try to be that motivation or inspiration for someone else. And we'll see you again next time. Here we go.
Is it okay?
Yep. No,